After my prenatal checkup, I decided to use my paid leave to go shopping for the first time in a while. I thought that since it was a weekday, it would be a little less crowded, but I ended up cursing myself for it. Of all things, why this? Right in front of me were my ex-husband, whom I divorced 2 years ago, and my sister, who I hadn't heard from in about 2.5 years, linking arms and staring at me in surprise. My sister Amy suddenly marched over and, without warning, shoved me to the ground. "What are you doing? Can't you see I'm pregnant?"
I know exactly what I'm doing. Because of that kid in your belly. He wants a divorce. You've been dumped, so hurry up and get it over with. I'm the rightful wife.
"Hey, Amy, do you know who the father of my baby is?"
What? Of course it's Ray's.
"This child isn't Ray's.
What? How?
I divorced Ray 2 years ago. This is my new husband's baby. Sis, you've been lied to by Ray." My words made my sister's eyes well up slowly, and she began sobbing uncontrollably in broad daylight on the street. My ex-husband, Ray, had a real silver tongue. When I was younger, I only saw Ray's good side and ended up marrying him. So, from the beginning, our marriage didn't go smoothly. Ray ran a business with his friend, but he struggled with cash flow and couldn't even manage our household expenses.
Sorry, I can't do it again this month.
Okay. He was supposedly broke, yet everything he wore was from top-tier brands. Even the apartment we lived in was an expensive one downtown, way out of our league. If Ray wasn't contributing financially, no way could my salary as someone in my 20s keep up with that lifestyle, no matter how big my company was. On top of that, Ray started showing signs of involvement with a woman who seemed like a patron, and in less than a year, our marriage was over. And now, here I was, pushed to the ground on the street by my confused sister. As I tried to stand up, I heard multiple footsteps approaching.
Mary.
Kyle? And Tony too.
I was looking out from the building and saw you get pushed down. If anything happens to Mary and our baby, the Cooper family won't stand for it.
The one yelling at Amy and Ray was Kyle, my current husband. Startled by his anger, Amy quickly backed away from me. With Kyle's help, I slowly got up and looked at Amy and Ray again. Ray avoided eye contact, looking embarrassed, while Amy cried in shock.
What do you mean, won't stand for it? Who are these guys?
Amy darted her eyes between Kyle and his brother.
Allow me to introduce myself again. I'm Kyle Cooper, Mary's husband. And this is my brother, Tony Cooper.
Nice to meet you.
Sorry to be blunt right off the bat, but just because you're her sister doesn't mean you can treat her so roughly. Are you okay with whatever happens to her and the baby? Can you take responsibility for that?
Amy flinched for a moment at Kyle's calm tone. But Amy wasn't one to stay quiet when she felt she had something to say. After a brief hesitation, she snapped back.
I don't care what happens to the baby. Because of that baby, I can't marry Ray.
"So you're saying that I'm refusing Ray's request for a divorce by using the baby as leverage?"
Of course. Isn't that exactly what's happening?
Kyle, with a serious look, addressed her.
Did you listen to what Mary just said?
What?
Mary is already divorced from that man and is now my wife. And, of course, the baby is mine.
Enough. That's a lie.
What?
You're all just trying to trick me. I don't know how much Mary paid you, but I'm not falling for this.
It seemed Amy still believed Ray's words. "Hey, Amy, what did Ray tell you?"
What? Why do you even care?
"I want to know what Ray's been saying.
He said that while he was working towards a divorce, Mary unexpectedly got pregnant and started stalling. He told me he was trying to get recognition for the baby, so just to wait a little longer.
You mean he was working towards divorce but still got her pregnant? Does that not bother you at all?
What?
Normally, wouldn't he avoid being intimate with the wife he supposedly wanted to divorce? It looked like she hadn't thought about that. Amy bit her lip hard. Honestly, I couldn't imagine wanting to be with a man like that. And then I asked the question that had been on my mind the most. You know, as sisters, you could have contacted me directly if you wanted to know the truth. Why didn't you just ask me?
Well,
Even if, for the sake of argument, you felt guilty about the affair, at least keep in touch with the family. Dad and Mom were so worried.
well, Ray told me not to.
I glanced over at Ray, who, once again, was avoiding eye contact. It was almost laughably obvious. What exactly does that mean?
Ray said, if people find out I'm having an affair with my wife's sister, your reputation will be ruined. So until everything is officially settled, we absolutely need to keep it a secret. If anyone finds out, it could destroy us.
That was all Amy needed to hear. To protect her relationship with Ray, whom she adored, Amy kept the promise she made with him. In the end, though, it meant she was deceived by Ray. She must have wanted to protect that relationship at all costs. A feeling I found myself almost envying. But that only highlighted just how pitiful her situation was. I never felt that strongly about Ray. Mom and Dad, and even people close to Ray, all knew about you and Ray.
What? How?
Well, that topic came up when we were divorcing.
That topic?
The reason for our divorce. I knew Ray was cheating, and I knew his affair was with you.
No way.
Well, Ray didn't exactly hide the notifications on his phone. You know what I mean, don't you? Amy probably had her own thoughts about Ray's lack of discretion, with calls and messages from women popping up openly on his phone. She dropped her gaze and sighed softly, a dark expression settling on her face.
Hey,
What?
did you really get divorced?
Yes, 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
You really were kept in the dark. At my words, Amy's eyes grew sharp, and she let her anger spill out.
I've been waiting this whole time for him to divorce you. Ray knew I was waiting. So why? Why didn't he tell me? Was I the only one left in the dark?
Pretty much, yes.
How could he do that? That's so cruel. I didn't even go back to our parents' place because I was keeping Ray's promise.
She began sobbing bitterly. I hadn't even known about the promise, so it was bothering to be called cruel. Whatever Ray had said, she was the one who chose to cut off contact. If she wanted to complain, it should be to Ray, who made her keep it all secret. Naturally, my frustration turned towards him. Why did you say that to her, Ray?
Huh.
That thing about keeping Amy's reputation safe? It's funny to hear that coming from the one who started the affair in the first place.
What? Who says I'm the one who started it? For all you know, it could have been Amy.
Oh no, it was definitely you.
How can you be so sure?
Because I heard from Amy that you visited her shop before anything even began between you two. It must have been a while after the wedding when Amy and I were eating out together. She had told me that Ray had come to her club. Ray knew about her jobs even before we were married, of course. But until our wedding day, they hadn't had any opportunity to meet, let alone talk. Yet, after the wedding, Ray started asking me frequently about Amy. He asked where she worked and what kind of person she was. He even asked about her past experiences and future dreams. At the time, he said he was asking because a friend from the wedding was interested in her. But knowing Ray, he wouldn't go out of his way for someone else. Ray, you had your eye on her at our wedding, didn't you? She's beautiful and popular at the club, planning to go independent soon with her own place. There's no way you could ignore that, right?
What are you talking about?
You thought she was a catch and maybe a good moneymaker too, didn't you?
What?
That's why, after a while, you made a point of visiting her club. Amy probably handled it well at first, given you were my husband. She even told me you'd shown up. But, in the end, she fell victim to you.
Don't make stuff up. You're just bitter about the divorce, trying to get revenge.
I couldn't care less about you. I was relieved to be done with the marriage.
What? Why?
Because, like Amy, I was just another pawn in your game.
Wait, Ray used you to marry?
Sis, he married me to use me. Of course, I only realized that after the wedding. So, you and I are allies in being taken advantage of by him. Amy looked confused by my words. Ray and I had met at a networking event. He'd approached me while I was there with a coworker. The business card he handed me read, President and CO. You run a business?
Yeah, it's just a tiny company with my friend.
Did you go independent?
Well, something like that.
We were in completely different industries and unlikely to collaborate professionally. But Ray's stories were interesting, and I grew intrigued by him. That led to meals together and eventually dating. He was busy and held a demanding position, hinting early on about wanting to settle down. Though marriage wasn't immediately on my mind, he assured me I could keep working and maintain my own pace, so I agreed. I could keep my job and live my life at my own pace. But that simply meant living like I was single, even while married, with no benefits to being married. If anything, marriage was a net loss for me. A little after the wedding, I found out Ray's company had been sold off. Due to poor management, the business never got off the ground and kept losing money. They ran out of funds, and selling it off was their only option. Since it was a small company with just the two of them and was operating at a loss, they were lucky just to have someone take it over. Ray's partner, who had been co-managing with him, said, "I'm done with running a business," and moved on to work at the company that acquired them. But Ray wasn't willing to do that. Whether it was pride from quitting his previous job or something, he started another company, no funds, no chances, just pure bravado, and with help from a woman.
A woman?
Yes.
Did you lend him money or something?
There's no way. He never even brought home his paycheck. I was the one covering all our living expenses in place of Ray. On top of that, there was no way I could lend hundreds of thousands of dollars to start a business. Ray got one of his longtime patron women to fund his new company.
Patron? What does that mean?
A cash source for Ray. They've apparently been involved for years.
What?
You probably didn't know, but Ray was involved in sugar dating in downtown Manhattan.
What?
Well, Ray makes a good first impression, right? He's attractive and charming and knows how to act sweet and cute around older women. Out of several of his sugar mamas, he picked one to be his main patron and got her to fund his business. Amy looked utterly shocked.
Why?
Because he couldn't make money from his real job, so he had to have a side hustle. For Ray, that was sugar dating. Didn't he always have luxury brand clothes and accessories, switching them up all the time? And let's not forget the car.
I always thought he was making good money.
No way.
But
Well, did he ever spend money on you?
What?
When he was around you, did he pay for anything? She seemed to realize something and fell silent. It was the same with me. He always wore and drove expensive things, but he rarely spent a dime on me or the household. I figured he was broke after he sold off his failing company and started a new one. I was paying for everything just to keep my own life going, but it reached a limit. Paying ridiculous rent for a big, overpriced place wasn't sustainable. Spending endless nights alone in that empty apartment didn't make any sense either. Amy listened in stunned silence as I vented. Then, nervously, she voiced a question.
Wait, but he came home, didn't he? He used to say he'd come home at least half the week to avoid raising your suspicion.
That was a lie.
What? A lie.
Yes, a lie. Toward the end, he was coming home maybe once a month. Made it nearly impossible to bring up the divorce.
Wait, then where was he all that time?
Where else? With his women.
What?
He was staying with his patrons half the week even before we got married. And it's probably not just them now.
What?
I only found out why he wasn't coming home after we got married. But because of that, I got to keep working and stick to my own pace. I shot a glare at Ray, who just looked away with a feigned, innocent expression.
But how do you know Ray was lying, Mary? He didn't tell you himself, right? So maybe you're mistaken about this whole thing.
Mistaken? About what?
About the patron women and the company's situation.
It's no mistake. And no, I didn't hear it from Ray.
Then,
I heard it from his former business partner.
who?
I heard it from Tony Cooper, Ray's former co-CEO. At my words, my brother-in-law gave a slight nod. She had no idea that Tony was Ray's former business partner. Amy stared at him in shock. Suddenly, Ray burst out laughing and threw sharp words my way.
So, you actually got Tony on your side. You were connected all along, huh? Maybe even consulting him while we were married. You must have noticed him at the wedding, right? After all, he's got the looks and the title. Easy to win over, right?
You're the one who was drawn to his title and looks, weren't you?
Oh, don't act like you didn't try to use Tony, too.
Don't lump me in with you. I only reached out to help Mary escape your nonsense.
Ray's relentless words prompted Tony to step in.
Oh, I get it. Mary's current husband is your brother, right? So she must have started up an affair with him while consulting with you, his business partner.
Don't drag my brother into this. He met Mary after her divorce. And honestly, none of this matters. Mary's my sister-in-law, and Cale is her husband. That's the truth. And everything Mary shared earlier, that's also the truth. Most of the blame for your failed business falls on you, Ray, but I'm grateful the Coopera company bought out that disaster, or I would have ended up in the gutter with you.
With that, Tony shot Ray a sharp glare. The truth was, the company's debts were due to Ray's reckless expansion. He made decisions without consulting Tony and only informed him after things went south. Originally, Tony, a technical expert, had relied on Ray's impressive sales skills, but later discovered that Ray's success was based on flirtations with female clients. When he realized this later, Tony painfully acknowledged his own shortcomings as a leader and joined Cooper as an employee after the buyout.
At that point, he knew he wasn't suited to be an executive. Really, Ray? That deliberate look away when we stepped in to help. You panicked when you saw me, didn't you?
Not really.
Sure you did. You're neck deep in trouble, and you know it.
At this, Ray muttered a small curse under his breath.
You remember what you told me, right? how you would manage a business on your own. You said that's why you married a woman with the right looks and title.
He made sure to take me to all these events to benefit his business. Isn't Santa's wife an Ivy League grad working for an elite firm? And she's stunning too. People would say. He used my title and appearance to gain credibility for his business. That's been his plan from the start.
What?
He married me to get my money, looks, and credentials. The company was always part of his plan. That's why, even though our relationship was brief, even though I had a career, even though we both lived at our own individual pace, our feelings for each other and time spent together weren't a concern. As long as I could be useful for his business, that's all that mattered. It was a hard truth to say aloud, even if I'd come to terms with it long ago. But it wasn't only me. Amy, you're also being used by Ray in the same way. His lies are proof of that. Please, open your eyes. I can't stand to watch him use you any longer. I meant every word. Sure, Ray's affair with Amy was one of the reasons for our divorce. But even if he hadn't cheated with her, there were so many red flags. I'm sure I would have left him eventually. So when I learned that Ray's affair was with Amy, all I could think about was her well-being. When I found out that Ray's affair partner was my sister Amy, my only concern was for her. With my divorce, I worried that she might become the next wife. My only concern was that the same pattern would repeat itself.
Why would Ray lie about a fake pregnancy and say the divorce wasn't finalized yet? He told me he'd marry me once the divorce went through.
That's because Ray had no intention of marrying you.
What?
Ray's plan was to get money out of you, not to marry you. So he kept making excuses to delay the divorce, saying it was because of my pregnancy.
Why? Why could he marry you but not me? Is it that he doesn't want to?
Everyone fell silent at my sister's question. Ray, the man in question, turned his whole body away, avoiding eye contact. That's because.
Because what? Just say it.
It's because you don't have the right title. And being a club hostess isn't exactly a profession he can flaunt. Amy was visibly shocked. It's understandable, hearing a reason like that. But that was the reality. According to Tony, Ray had been cozying up to a CEO of a tech company with a top university degree, hinting that she might be his real choice.
So, I was just an ADM to Ray while he kept someone else as his main woman?
Ray clicked his tongue in annoyance. To him, she was just a pawn he could no longer use. The bitterness was hard to stomach. It's not just you. Even his current patron is a woman who runs a bar and keeps pressing him for marriage. But he always finds excuses and keeps her on the line.
You and Mary aren't the only ones. He's been like this for years. To Ray, women are simply tools for his survival. Sad as that is.
Tony's words were heavy. And in a way, he was a victim too. Despite choosing to go independent, Ray had taken advantage of his technical skills to pursue reckless profits. This guy doesn't just use women. He uses anyone around him. He's a disgrace.
Unforgivable.
Suddenly, Amy let out a groan. It was just one word, but it carried all the negative emotion she felt. Seeing her anger, Ray let out a twisted grin and scoffed.
Really? Now? You're the one who believed me without question.
What?
Sure, I told you not to say anything. But it was up to you to decide what to do next. You thought it'd be best to follow my advice, didn't you? Now you're blaming me?
His shameless deflection was unsurprising. But this was no trivial matter. Ray, do you understand the gravity of what you've done?
Huh? What are you talking about?
What you've done to Amy and these other women.
I don't get what you mean by understand.
What you're doing is criminal.
What?
Dangling the prospect of marriage, stringing women along, and taking their money. What else would you call that but marriage fraud?
What? Are you saying what I'm doing is marriage fraud?
Ray looked genuinely oblivious, and then burst out laughing.
You guys, don't make me laugh. This is marriage fraud? Seriously? Sure, I've got a few women on the side. Honestly, I've got connections you don't even know about.
What?
But calling that marriage fraud? Give me a break.
His smug attitude was infuriating. This has already become a police matter.
What?
One of your patrons seems to have reported you to the police.
What?
She also said she's never seeing you again. Isn't she blocking your calls right now? At those words, Ray frantically fumbled with his phone. After holding it to his ear for a moment, he cursed loudly. Damn it.
Why is this even happening?
Tony saw you getting cozy with her at her bar.
Huh?
He happened to see you while out with business associates. It reminded him of the woman you once showed him a picture of, calling her my patron, before you married Mary. He looked into her and eventually contacted her directly, with Kyle and Mary there as well.
What?
At first, we didn't think she'd listen, but it turns out she's a sharp businesswoman. Once I told her about Mary's background, she got the picture without needing every detail.
Oh, and we've informed your favorite tech CO too.
What?
Her company works with ours, so Mary and I spotted you hanging around her office. Afterward, I asked her a few things about you. She went from beaming about her relationship with you to looking devastated when she learned the truth.
Ray, clutching his phone again, likely tried calling the CO. Just like before, he held the phone to his ear, then cursed even louder. Damn it.
What do you people want from me? Huh? Getting back at me for the divorce. After moving on with a new husband and child. You still come after me?
With rage in his eyes, Ray lunged toward me. But Kyle stepped forward to shield me.
You didn't actually want to divorce Mary, did you?
What?
Ray's furious expression froze.
After hearing from Tony and watching you, it's clear. You really cared about Mary, didn't you?
Ray's words caught in his throat. Kyle just smiled knowingly.
You're so transparent. You genuinely loved Mary, so you married her. But everyone else, you've just led them on with excuses and hollow promises. I'd bet you never planned on marrying the CO either, did you?
I couldn't see it, but Kyle seemed to have read Ray completely. At Kyle's words, Ray muttered under his breath.
So what?
Then maybe try being a decent man. At least don't do things that'll make the woman you love hate you.
At that, Ray grumbled, "Damn it," almost like he was holding back his frustration. Not long after, Ray was reported to the police by several women, including his patron, for marriage fraud. He was taken in for questioning. He lost his job, his money, and his home, and he seems to have come clean about everything, seeing he had no one left to rely on. It turns out he was also involved in work-related scams, which were also reported to the authorities. According to Kyle's company's attorney, if everything is proven true, he likely won't escape a prison sentence. Amy also filed a report with the others. At 33, Amy was serious about her future with Ray, so this must have left quite a scar. Though she may never fully come to terms with it, I hope this will lead her to a better outcome. And then she disappeared from our lives once again. As my sister, she felt she couldn't face me after everything she'd done. Wanting to cut all ties to Ray, she closed her club, reset her life, and left for overseas. The difference this time is that she stays in touch with our parents. With Ray's hold over her gone, she reportedly cried and apologized to them.
Kinda smart, Amy. I wouldn't be surprised if she starts something new over there.
Actually, she's got several connections and business opportunities waiting for her already.
No way. You and Amy have way too much potential.
Kyle laughed, placing his hand on my belly. I lost a lot through my involvement with Ray. But now, I have a happiness that surpasses all of that. And I'm sure my sister will find hers too, or so I hope as I placed my hand over Kyle's.